computer. All right, it's Catherine Fox, and I don't know where Pam is, and I don't know where Lisa is, but there's these us three are kind of running the gamut on the are running the collaborative right now. I welcome everyone to the second um, candidate forum that the collaborative is putting on, and it's a good opportunity for candidates to talk about their goals, and then we try to ask them challenging questions, and so we get a better idea of what we might see if they're elected, and we hope their answers match what their actions are once they are elected. So everyone should mute except for our speakers. So Deborah, I'm muting. Dan, I'm muting. I don't think anyone else. iPhone Lester, I'm going to mute you. Okay, I don't see anyone else. Everyone should try. What we're going to do, the forum, how we're going to do it is what we did last time, is we begin with the opening statement from each person, and then we go down the list of the questions and kind of alternate between, people can answer maybe two at once. And then at the end, we, if they want to make a closing statement, and then if any owners online want to ask one question, you should type it up in the chat. That's how we'll do it. And and everyone will be cordial. And if there's any kind of discussion that goes in a negative manner, our challenge and stuff, that's not what we're about. So I'll have to mute because we want everything to be really positive. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. And thank you again to the brave Barb and brave John to come and show and answer all these questions. So I'm going to go ahead and view the speakers. All right, see if it works. The first, I don't know who will go first. Opening statement. Who would like to go first, John or Barb?
Does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
Barb?
Go ahead, Barb.
Go ahead, Barb. You start with a B.
He's a veteran, Barb. You go ahead.
Okay. First question is, how long have you owned at Pinnacle Port and what unit do you own? My husband Gary and I purchased Penthouse 1 on October 31st, 1993. We're going on almost 32 years. 2, or B, what is your professional background? I work for Southwestern Bell Telephone Company, and 1976 is when I started. That merged to AT&T for 36 and a half years. I started in the steno pool, went up the ladder to secretary, then went to night school. I obtained a bachelor's degree in 1996 and an MBA in 1998, and moved up the ladder to director. I took early retirement in December of 2013 to help with my granddaughter and relocated to Yuma County, Arizona. I always wanted to teach, so I was a substitute teacher at my granddaughter's grade school for a year and a half. I did such a good job, they offered me a full-time teaching position. I taught for 5 years and retired when I turned 62. Since then, I've been volunteering my time. I am vice mayor for the town of Welton. I'm on the board of director at PPCA, as well as my son and I partnered with Apex Network PT in Welton that was going to close the clinic on November 30th, 2024. So I purchased to keep the physical therapy in our town and for the residents and employees. C, why do you want to be on the board? To help the owners and PPCA get back on track. Owners need to know what is going on, transparency. We need to watch our spending and get PPCA back on track. We need to prioritize what needs to be done and get the best quality and price. D, what qualifications do you bring to the board? I would say honesty and pushing for transparency to owners and trying to meet our budget, but still get accomplishments. E, other. To be transparent, in case you're not aware, on December 12th of 2024, my husband and son sent me to our local hospital as I wasn't being myself. They did a scan and notified us that I had a severe bleeding tumor, brain tumor. They flew me to Phoenix, Arizona, where the surgeon removed 95% of the brain tumor, which is called glioblastoma multiforme, which I never heard of before. I went through radiation and chemotherapy, and now I have MRI bi-monthly. To date, the MRIs look good, even Thursday, my last one. However, in my opinion, I'm not 100% of myself, and I don't remember everything, but I will do the best I can to take care of the owners in PPCA. And FYI, I put our condo for sale in January 2025 because I wasn't sure what was going on due to my health. And I had to sign a year lease, but since I'm doing better, I took the condo off. So.
Excellent. Well, we are so happy you're doing better. And even half of Barb is better than a whole of other choices. So I love Barb, and I think, and we appreciate you so much. And I'm glad I met your family. They have a wonderful family, and they're glad to have you around, as we are.
Thank you.
So, John, would you like to make an opening statement, please?
Sure. We bought at Pinnacle Port in 2016. I'm a local person. I grew up in the area. I grew up in Seagrove Beach, just down the road. Went to high school at Freeport High School, Florida State University, and spent 10 years in South Florida working, and moved back in 1994 and have been here ever since. We live in Chipley, which is about 50 miles north of Pinnacle Port. And so my career and my social life and so forth and so on, it's been centered around Bay County, Walton County, Washington County my whole life. So I would consider myself local, except for being gone for 10 years. So professionally, I'm a financial advisor. I've been independent advisor for 36 years. I manage funds for clients, basically manage a lot of them, help them manage their lives, but it's supposed to be their money, but you end up doing a lot more. If anybody in the business has clients, you understand that. But I also am a business owner, own a landscaping and nursery business. We live on a 200-acre farm in Chipley, where we run our nursery business from, also our landscaping business. We also have an office in Freeport where we wholesale and retail materials there as well. So anyway, let me see what the other questions you had on there, Catherine. Why do you want to be on the board? I feel like there's a place for somebody with my skill set to be on the board. I'm a good communicator. I've dealt with people my whole life. I've basically been an independent contractor. I've worked for myself since age 26. So my bottom line has always been the bottom line that affects me. So I think that when it comes to doing board work, and I've been on other boards, but you're managing other people's money as well, which I do. And that's important. You have a fiduciary duty in order to do that well. And I think that's some of the things we've been missing on the board over the years since I've been here, and also the communication aspect. So I think we have some areas we can improve in. We've got a lot of work ahead. My experience in contracts, working for the state of Florida, I think that will greatly help me dealing with contractors moving forward.
Very good. Well,
is there something else, Catherine, on that list?
No, I think you did very well. I think your screen is a little fuzzy. I don't know if it's mine or yours, but you're coming in a little foggy, like you're maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, maybe it's because the humidity or something. That's a little better, but it's a little.
Yeah, I'm sitting outside on the porch. I can move inside. I'm outside on the porch. So
okay, just wanted to. Just
anyway, it's probably better if it's probably better if I'm a little bit fuzzy.
Well, thank you for that. What I'm going to do is ask you the next question, since that's how we do it. What is your vision for the future of Pinnacle Port?
You want me to answer it, Barb?
That's for you, John. What is your vision for the future?
Well, I saw that. I read that question, and I think when we bought in 2016, we were riding across the bridge, looking across at Pinnacle Port. I actually had helped run the beach service here when I was a teenager, so I had spent a lot of time at Pinnacle Port. I used to go floundering and fishing with my granddad in Lake Powell. many, many years ago when I was a kid. So I was very familiar with the property. We came out to purchase or look to purchase, and I think I was very surprised at the price of the units based on other places that I had been to. Once I was able to look around, I had saw the property was run down. And so it didn't take a rocket science to realize there was a lot of things being neglected at the property. And in my opinion, it's just gotten worse since 2016, up until recently when a lot of improvements have started to make. So I think that the idea here is to not want to be on the board, I think. The idea here would be to show up, everything's great. You don't have to question anything. The landscaping looks good. There's no holes in the walls. There's no dirty carpet. The things that we take for granted weren't being done. And I think a lot of people have seen that. So my goal for Pinnacle Port would be to get it back in the shape that it was and the way it should look based on the responsibility of the board to do it.
Very good. Barb, what is your vision for the future of Pinnacle Port?
Well, we need to review the work that needs to be done and prioritize. There was work identified that doesn't need to be done at this time and was very expensive. For example, replacing the doors and windows. That was quoted at 17 million, I believe. And they're all not needed now. There are some that need to be replaced, but not all. I believe we should take one project at a time and plan to minimize interruption. During the time we've owned, work was planned out and minimized downtime, and we need to continue that. That's what we brought in Stone Building Solutions for their goals, but we may need even a third opinion.
So what about your vision? I guess that's your vision. Okay, next, Barb, this is back to you again. What do you think are our greatest challenges facing Pinnacle Port in the next 2 years? That would be while you're on the board again if you're elected.
Okay, that's meeting the items that were identified in the Sears report and need to be completed within a couple years, within 2 years. We need to validate all those items and prioritize and get the best quality and the best prices. So.
Very good. John, what do you think are the greatest challenges facing Pinnacle Port in the next 2 years?
I think mainly financial. I think we've got to come up with ways, and I think this has been talked about some, in order to finance some of the projects, the major repairs we've got to get done. Coming up so all owners are able to have financing. And one of the things Barb just said is very important. We've got to be able to schedule these. We can't throw everybody out of the tower for 6 months, let them move back in, and 6 months later throw them out for something else. So it's going to take a lot of working together with the contractors, a lot of planning, a lot of understanding the workflow, what needs to be done first, what needs to be done second. So it can't be scattered. It's going to have to be well coordinated. We're going to have all 8 board members working together.
All right. If chosen as a director, John, how would you help meet those challenges that you just mentioned?
Well, I think by being a participating member of the board, trying to get along with everybody on the board is important, and understanding each person's skill set, bringing my skill set to the board, whether it's in the contract negotiations, managing contracts. These are things I do on a daily basis. I've been working for the state of Florida. I don't know if y'all have recognized the landscape project outside on the roadway between Pinnacle Port and the Walton County line. My company did that a few years ago, the one that a lot of people were complaining about. They couldn't see past the trees out in the medians, but that's the kind of work we do. So I'm very good at negotiating contracts, working with subcontractors. These are things that I can bring to the table in areas maybe that we have a need.
Good. All right. This goes back to Barb. Are you familiar with the Florida statutes governing condo associations? Like Chapter 718, the new law that just came through, House Bill 913, I believe it. and the association documents like the bylaws. Are you familiar with those?
Okay, yes, but before we do that, should I answer number 4?
Did I say that? Oh, see, she's good. She's good. All right. First, before you go there, please answer number 4. If you were chosen as a director, what would you do to help meet the challenge?
She's already a director.
She is very good.
I agree with John with the board members getting involved if they have that expertise. If we do not have the expertise, we need experts to validate the to-dos, to help us prioritize and get the best quality and price possible. So, and then for number 5, yes, I'm aware, in reviewing the new HB 913, I'm not sure, but Catherine, I think you may have sent that link. But anyway, there's lots of data and I do a lot of searching. I first look in Common Control to see if I can find it. If not, I go to Google and do searches. So yes, a lot of information in both chapter 718, but our GM, Jeremy, is good. He will tell us the details so we can look at that if we need to.
Well, the new H Bill 913 has a lot more reporting requirements and a lot of financial a lot of reporting to the owners, much more. And also it has a lot of information about conflict of interest and making sure there's no buddy-buddy going on with the contractors. So do you think we should follow these laws, or do you think they're more like a guideline?
Absolutely, we should follow it. Owners need to be treated and we need to share information with them as much as we can. There's only a couple things that we can't share that we've met with the attorney, but things from bottom to top, we need to share with the owners, and the weekly communications that is sent out will help. And during our meetings, that also has open Q&As. So yes.
All right. I think this one goes back to John. John, same question. Have you looked at those chapter 718, the new House Bill 913, any of the association documents? Have you had a chance to look at those? And do you have any?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I think that like Barb said, it's the HB 913 seems to drill down on a lot of the issues after the collapse down in South Florida, and I think it brings into play a lot more issues regarding clarity and, like you said, communication with owners, not having conflicts of interest with contractors and board members and such. And so, yeah, I think it's good. I mean, I think the more guidelines we have, I think less gray area. There's less area for people to make mistakes, whether they're intentional or not. I don't think anybody gets on a condo board, in my opinion, in order to do wrong. I think everybody just has a different way of doing things. So the more guidelines there are, I think it helps directors in the end, and in turn, it helps all the owners.
Great. John, are you familiar with the manner in which reserve funds are to be used, like the tower pot, the mid-rise money, and the common areas? Are you familiar that there's a division?
Yeah, I am now. I wasn't until the carpet issue, so which I found to be quite an interesting board meeting. But I have a hard time in my mind separating a condo and C3 versus the tower, so forth and so on. I know things were set up a certain way, and however they're set up is how we're going to have to run it. In a perfect world, I think we all share in the expenses. I think the power of 400 is much greater than the power of 150 or 200 or whatever it is. In the end, a problem at the tower affects the blow rise, whether it's with renters, if you own multiple units, or with prices of your unit, the actual sales price if you go to sell. So there's a lot of that. We're tied together at the hip. It's kind of, in my mind, it's kind of hard to separate.
But you are familiar that, like, there was a legal opinion put out that the money goes in certain pots and is supposed to be spent in certain pots.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, like I said, I understand it. We'll abide by it, but I think based on our original documents, from what I understand, it was set up that way.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if I have another one for you. I don't
know that it has, and I'll say this: I don't know that it has been directly adhered to in the past.
Good point. All right, I think we're back to you, Barb, if I'm doing this correctly. Um, are you familiar with the manner in which reserves funds are to be used, separated with tower, mid-rise, and common areas? And do you think they should be adhered to or changed, or what are your thoughts at all?
Well,
You
I
all,
think we need to revisit what's happening now so that we can do a better job because the series was produced in October of 2024 by O'Connell and Associates, and we brought in um, another company. I have to find the name, SBS, I believe it is, to look over. But yes, we need to look at it. We need to revisit and make sure everything is accurate.
Mhm. Okay. Also to you, Barb, what current policies, written or otherwise, would you like to change, if any? And if it's okay, I'm going to go through each one individually. So,
Okay.
because I know you worked on the policy document too. Do you have any thoughts about board meetings, dates, times, lengths? Any thoughts about, are they good as is, or would you change anything?
I think, in my opinion, we need to meet more frequently, especially with everything going on. And at our last meeting, maybe it was when we talked about the budget for fourth quarter 2025, it was so brief. We need to spend that time, especially when it's our money, going over that with the owners. So we need to expand our meeting longer, or we need to have a separate meeting. There's information we need to be transparent with to the owners and give explanations instead of just a summary. So,
Do you have any thoughts about, I think you do, about financial reporting to owners? Current, our policy, how it's been done, how it should be done, anything about that?
that's where I put, we need to have separate meeting or spend more time during the scheduled meeting to bring owners up to date with the spending and the path forward.
Well, it's been hard to get the financial information, as you know, even when Sandy wouldn't provide it to you when you were treasurer, which was very
Right.
unfortunate that the board didn't take that more seriously. But don't you agree that if an owner, or you tell me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put an answer in your mouth. If an owner asks for financial information, do you think we should give it to the owner?
Absolutely, absolutely we should, but they shouldn't have to ask for it. We should provide it.
There you go. Yeah.
And we should be covering it in detail, not just, here's our fourth quarter 2025 budget, and move on to something else. It's very important. Our budget and our spending of our money is important, and we should go into that in much detail, either during the meeting, make it longer, or a separate meeting, but something needs to be done better.
How about owner maintenance by PPCA staff? I think I know your opinion, but tell everyone your opinion about owner maintenance by PPCA staff.
Okay, owner maintenance should go back to where we were. Our work orders almost paid their salaries, and with the increase, because I think we were paying a lot less than when they updated it to $60 per visit, it would maybe be closer, if not exceeding their pay. But it was taken away from us a couple of years ago. And in my opinion, at that time, I did not see maintenance increase around Pinnacle Port. We were contracting out work to contractors when the maintenance was supposed to be there for Pinnacle Port. We contracted out the fans that were put in. We contracted out even locks put on the library, the billiard room, and one other room. I'm not sure what that is. And then we also contracted out the painting, which was nice, but that's what the maintenance should be doing. And at minimum, in my opinion, half of them should be dedicated to Pinnacle Port owners and work on our work that needs to be done. And the other half can work on keeping the maintenance taken care of for Pinnacle Port. That's my opinion, and that's what I recommend.
Do you think that could be a source of revenue to Pinnacle Port?
Oh, yes, if they did the owner maintenance like they used to, it almost paid their salaries. Now we have hardly any money coming in, so that's why it's impacting our budget and why we were looking for other sources of income to come in. So yes, we need to get it back. That's my opinion, and that was one of the reasons why I ran.
How about SimLive? We've had a lot of activity with that. What is any thoughts about SimLive?
Well, I believe that was already taken care of before I was elected. I believe one of the board members said that I was involved. If I were involved, it was only talking about the time and the pay, and I would not have agreed to that, I'm sure. So, SimLip, we should be following the guidelines. And in my opinion, I even thought the same thing. Owners that live there also bring in family and friends, and there's no fee to them. So we need to be fair. It needs to be fair if we go that route and if we get all the owners or the majority of owners to support it. And quite honestly, I think we were just as secured with the guards than with the QR codes. And sometimes we're not as secure because people are giving their QR codes to other people. So we don't even know if it's accurate or not until we get the license numbers associated. So, not the best in my opinion.
I have do you have any other policies you'd like to discuss at this point that you would change or
We need to ensure owners are kept in a loop and the budget quarter by quarter and annually are aware of our spending and what we can do to stay within the budget and keep PPCA taken care of.
Very good. I'm going to switch this long question over to John. John, what current policies, written or otherwise, would you change, if any? And my first question was thought about the board meetings. Do you like it the way they're handled now, or would you change anything?
Well, the board meetings as of late seem to be pretty productive. They've been several that have been very long. I've really had a hard time staying online watching some of them, the length. I think, we've had an innate amount of problems that the board's dealing with right now, which is going to require longer meetings. I think that's part of it. I think knowing going forward, if you're running for the board or planning to stay on the board, that these meetings are going to be lengthy in the future. It's just going to be part of it. The work's got to get done. So I think if it requires a long meeting, we have a long meeting. I think if it's a short meeting, we have a short meeting. I think the agenda is going to dictate that.
Well, some people are not happy that they're in the middle of a work day. Some would prefer it to be on a week.
Well, I would say that's a problem, but that goes back to me also to communication, amongst board members, between the board and the GM. When we get to if we have 8 board members, getting 8 people to agree to a time along with the GM sometimes is going to be very difficult. I think we have to be flexible. I think it's everybody's obligation to try to make it work. What if there's 6 that can meet and you've got something planned that can be canceled or postponed? I think you need to do it and be a part of that meeting. And that's the commitment you're making by being on the board.
Well, I had an extra question. Really, it's easy, really, though. These board meetings are taped. Do you think that these board meetings should be placed, the tape somewhere so people that can't make it can watch them?
Of course they should. I thought that was being done on condo control, or was supposed to be being done.
Unless someone else is aware of it, I don't think you can access them.
Yeah, I haven't tried to access one, but I would think that I think that would kind of be standard and customary amongst boards, is to have the meetings available to people that can't watch. So yes, I'd be in favor of that. I don't see what would it hurt.
Barb, do you know if they're available?
Not to my knowledge.
I don't think they are. I'm actually trying to find them.
Well,
yeah.
Well, that would be something for us to work on, to move towards getting that done. I think that's important, because I think going forward, the amount of money we're all going to be responsible for, I think people need to be in part of the process. So if they can't be there live, they need to go back to see what each person said, what was voted on, because it's their money.
That's correct. Thank you for that. Yeah, I can't find the minutes either. So if anybody could send me the link of where I could find the minutes, I would be happy. Next
Maybe
one.
this is something that, Catherine, maybe this is something you can ask Jeremy, or somebody on the current board can ask him. I think he should be able to give us an answer to that. He's been GM at other places before, so maybe this is something that's not done that maybe we need to do, or maybe it's something that is done that we should be doing.
Well, he's actually on this call right now, so
Okay.
he could tape it. If you have a link, Jeremy, to where we can find the recordings on condo control or in the meeting minutes, that would be thankful.
Based on the equipment that we purchased, I don't know if you'd be better off recording it on an iPhone.
Well, something we need to have that. All right, now next question is for John. What about any comments on financial reporting to owners? Current policies, current activities, how it might be changed? Any thoughts?
Well, I mean, it needs to, I mean, I think whatever the standard accounting procedures that are reasonable and customary need to be followed. If that hasn't been followed, then we need to be doing that. I think quarterly reports, I think after meetings where anything financials talked about, the GM needs to be able to include that in his weekly update to major items that are discussed at the meeting regarding finances, need to be made available to people on a weekly basis through the GM's report. Why would Pinnacle Port, as a nonprofit or as a association that's all working together for the good of everybody, be wanting to hide financial information? I don't understand that. So I'm not aware of that going on as far as hiding anything or not being forthright with information. But if that's the case, it needs to be addressed.
All right, that's an idea that we could have links in the weeklies to the financial reports.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Yes, let's all write him and tell him to do it. Owner maintenance by PPCA staff. Do you have an opinion about that?
Well, I think what Barb said, I like the idea of having people on staff to do the nitnoid plumbing, fix the cable TV, put a lock on a door and charge owners for that at a reasonable rate. I think it was a great idea. I think it became obsolete when we started having so many problems with other issues that were taking our maintenance team off of those issues and trying to solve bigger issues that involved the community as a whole. So can we go out and hire more maintenance people that can do these jobs? I don't know. I can tell you the workforce is very thin. Getting quality people to do work that you can trust to go into units, I think that's a challenge in today's work environment. So I think from a standpoint of saying that it sounds good, it does. Being able to implement it again and move forward with that, I don't know if it'll work. So I'm all for listening and trying to make it happen.
And it possibly could be a revenue source.
Well, it is. One thing that I reckon talk to Mike about that I think we should do at Pinnacle Port is we should have a preferred vendors type list available to owners, to where we've got plumbers, electricians, cable TV, computer people, people that carpenters that can do small handyman jobs. We should have a list developed of people that have worked at Pinnacle Port that can give referrals from owners. This would be very helpful for people, especially new people that are buying and moving. The list that says who can replace their door lock, or I think that's something that would be very helpful.
Do you have any comments or thoughts about SimLive?
Yeah, I think it was a bad idea. I thought it was a bad idea from the start. I think it was a program, a software that was developed to control vendors coming in and out of homeowners associations that Caroline wanted, and Caroline greatly wanted us to participate so they could control our people of who's coming in and out of the gate. And I think it was a mistake. I think there were a lot of people that got done wrong at the gate that were paying to stay here that got turned away. I think that it wasn't fairly distributed, and I think the owners should have voted on it. And I think it's come to light here recently that all those things are true. And, you know, when you look at the revenue it generated, approximately $400 for each owner over the last 12 months, it wasn't worth it. I think that one thing Barb said, I think security was better before we had it. So we got to come up with something else. I think trying to raise revenues through all these little things, when you start dividing it by 400 and the problems it's causing, I think it's more trouble than it's worth.
Do you have any other policies in mind that you wanted to mention that you would change?
One thing that, Catherine, that I know there's been a lot of talk around Sandy, the previous person that was doing our accounting. And when I was reading over the bylaws for Pinnacle Port, one thing that specifically states in the bylaws that the GM and the GM only is responsible for all of the employees, not the board. And I think that that's something for the board to take into consideration in dealing with the employees at Pinnacle Port. That's not the board's job. The board's job is to set policy and to make decisions based on their fiduciary responsibility to Pinnacle Port. It's not to manage the employees. So whether it's a board member or an owner that's having a problem with an employee, that should be brought directly to the GM, not the board. And that's set aside very clearly in the documents for Pinnacle Port. And you can read it there under the general manager's fiduciary and his responsibilities.
All right.
So I want to make that clear that going forward, that if I'm elected to the board, I'm not going to deal with the employees. That's not my job. That's the general. We hire a general manager. That's his job. We manage the general manager. The general manager manages the employees.
All right. Good. That's a good point. Interesting point for sure. Let's see. We're still on you, John. What would you do if one or more directors don't follow, you know, the state laws, the bylaws, all this? For example, lack of financial reporting to owners. It's held back or not, or, you know, it's not released. Misuse of our funds. Casting votes that might benefit them.
I'm not aware. I know there's been some issues regarding people wanting records and such. I think that one of the issues surrounding that was the fact that we didn't have a CPA or an accountant running our books. We had a bookkeeper from what I understand, really didn't understand the processes and was very hard to work with. Again, that's the general manager's job to control and to make sure that person's doing their job. If that accountant or that person in the finance department for Pinnacle Port that we've hired if it's their job to produce the records, then that's their job. That's not the board's job. Again, I think that we're getting lines crossed on what people are, what their jobs are.
Well, remember the bookkeeper was the GM for a while. Remember?
There, who did that?
Well, we had a president.
What a complete disaster. So.
Right. Okay, thank you. If you heard of it, not saying that anything happened, but say you were aware, this is kind of a personal, how do you manage, you know, say you were aware that there was a perceived conflict of interest with a director or a potential misuse of funds. How would you approach it? People have different approaches. You've been in business a long time. Do you have any thoughts on how you might handle it?
Is this for me or Barb? I'm sorry.
This is for you, and then I'm going back to Barb on the next one.
Oh. Well, I mean, if there's wrongdoing, then it has to be addressed. There has to be a board meeting. It has to be brought to light. It has to be made, our attorney would have to be made aware of it. If you're speaking of a board member that's done something wrong, I think that, once again, you know, I mean, are we talking about an opinion or a fact? You know, I get confused sometimes with some of the bickering that we have. Are we talking about facts or opinions? Is there evidence of wrongdoing? Has somebody taken money and spent it and bought a car, or somebody hired somebody from the family to do a bogus job and pay them a bunch of money? I mean, these are the kind of things I think of when you say things like that. And if I'm not aware of any of those things. So if it's the case, and I think it's an issue, I think if it's people being mad that they don't get what they want, then that's a different story. I think that's something that needs to be taken up with the GMs.
Right. I'm talking about the laws, not personalities. But thank you for that. Back to you,
You're
Barb.
welcome.
We already went through the policies. What would you do if one or more directors did not follow the state laws, the bylaws, you know, that kind of thing, or the GM, or whatever? A lack of financial reporting to owners, misuse of PPCA funds, casting votes that may financially benefit their own private business. How would you handle it?
Owners should have transparency, and the board of directors need to follow the guidelines. If they get requests and do not follow, it needs to be brought to the attention of the BOD and GM and advised if not taken care of, steps may be taken to report them. We have to do, and we should share with the owners what's going on. You know, it's just, we need to be transparent to the owner for everything.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Have you reviewed the current past budgets and reserves and all the expenditures such as the special project money, all that? Have you had a chance? Have you looked at that?
Yeah, and I had one printed out, and then we had an updated one out on, and I did find it on condo control. So I've got some ways to find things by using it. But I usually get the budget a couple days before it's shared with the owners during the meeting. I had several questions and brought those to the meeting. For example, it showed, and things have changed, but at that time it showed that we were over budget like 900,000 plus just for fourth quarter 2025. They said that was for fourth quarter 2025. However, there were issues with the previous accountant, and she has been replaced and the budget looks better. I recommend this be included in next meeting or separate meetings for those interested in the budget. For example, I'm looking at the latest budget for total expenses for the different departments. And 24-25, it was $5,294,123, and it's now $5,021,873. There was a lot of increases in our salaries for the employees. For example, maintenance went from $821,857 to $1,123,248. So we have more resources, and looks like all the departments, it went up. So we probably have more resources, or we're paying them more. So we should be getting things done. It's a very expensive, the insurance and the employees are the two most expensive items that we have, and we need to make sure we're doing the best we can with it.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is back to John. John, you settled in there? Here we are. I'm on number 10, John.
Tell me what it is, and Chuck.
All right, number 10. Per the unaudited profit and loss report for July 24 to June 25, we are over $700,000 in the red for unbudgeted expenses. What is your response to this shortfall, and what would you do to make sure it does not happen under your watch?
Well, I reviewed the profit and loss statement. I felt like that, well, I think I made a comment on Facebook, and maybe I made it after the meeting was over, that, you know, generally speaking, what I like to do is take maybe the 10 major expenditures, if you don't understand accounting very well, and look at those major expenditures, take a Sharpie and highlight those and go back through those and look at them and see where the amount of the money was spent. I mean, I don't think we can cry over spending $5,000 more on cable TV or this or that. I think when you go back through that profit and loss statement, you'll see that certain areas where the money was spent that we were over budget on were basically things that we had to do. You can't say, okay, we're not going to fix the chiller, or okay, we're not going to fix the plumbing leak in the parking lot. So I think nothing glared at me there, Catherine, that was abusive or money that wasn't well spent. I think that we don't. The bottom line is we don't have a lot of money, and the things that have to. I think the board has a fiduciary responsibility to do those things. And what ends up happening then when we run out of money, we have to raise the fees and the dues. So that's part of it. So I think that everybody needs to grab onto their bootstraps here, because it's going to get worse before it's better. Now, as far as I don't know if is there something, Catherine, that you're saying here that you don't like about it, or the fact?
Well, it's not nothing about my opinion. I'm just
like the fact that we're over budget. Is that
we were over 700,000 in the red for unbudgeted?
Yeah.
What is your response, and how can we do a better job in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like anything else. What I've done in my business for 35 years, I manage it, and I think that you have to manage it. But just because you're managing it doesn't mean that you're not going to be over. If the items that you're over are things that we had to do to keep the business open, so to speak, then you have to do those things. So, like I said, I have my wife's a CPA. I've had her look at it. We've both looked at it. Nothing really glared out as a big issue. Outside of that, things have gone up and things are very expensive, and I think it's going to continue.
All right. Let's see, did I ask you to? Am I back?
No,
all right, I think I'm back. I'll stay with you, John. According to their balance sheet, PPVR had a total of $539,989.47 remaining in their account as of June 30th, 25. These funds were made up of damage fees, linen fees, operating funds, and more, and they were transferred to PPCA's accounts after that date. You're aware of that, right?
Yeah, I am. I don't really know what the rules are regarding transferring monies back and forth between accounts between ourselves. So I think that whatever the rules are set out and how the money has to be handled and who it goes to and when and where, I think those should be set in stone. Are they not?
Well, I'm not an expert, and I'm not, but I do think there are some rules. Do you think the treasurer of the board should have told the owners about the funds and maybe made known and had a vote about the moving of the funds?
The moving of the funds? Well, again, I'm not sure of the if there's any regulations, or if there. So moving of the funds, you're saying we moved funds from one account to another
without a vote, as far as I know. I've never seen it.
Does that require a vote to be able to have to do that? I mean, if you're trying to cover expenses and part of the budget, I guess, and we've moved money from something to cover those expenses, is that what you're asking? Does that need to be voted on?
Well, I don't want to answer any questions right now. I'm just trying to ask you.
Okay.
If you don't know if it
I don't know if that should be voted. If it needs to be voted on, then it should have been voted on. I don't know what the rules are specifically regarding moving funds internally like that.
Okay. That makes sense.
Maybe Barb could. Maybe Barb.
Yeah, let's flip it over to Barb. Barb, do you? Let's see. I'm going to ask you 10 and 11, just like I asked John. Barb, per the unaudited profit and loss report for July 24 to June 25, we were over 700 in the red for unbudgeted expenses. What is your response to this shortfall, and what would you do to make sure it does not happen again?
And I think I kind of said this with my last comment. Our biggest expenses are the insurance employees. We need to make sure we have the best insurance and rates as well as employees. We need to look at our personnel and adjust as needed.
Okay. And
I know when I looked in maintenance, there was 821,857, and now that was in 24-25. Now we have 1,123,248, and I believe they added some resources, and that's for every department except administration. So we need to make sure our employees are meeting their goals or exceeding, and we have what we need. And I used to have budget when I was with AT&T for many years, and I always came in budget or under budget. And if I saw things were going high, I would adjust things. So you have to. You don't have the money, you can't spend it. You need to prioritize what's important and take care of the budget, not going over $700,000 or more.
Thank you. Here's number 11. According to the balance sheet, PPVR had a total of $539,989 remaining in their account as of June 30th. These funds were made up of damage fees, linen fees, operating funds, and they were transferred into PPCA's accounts after that date. Do you think that the board, the treasurer, somebody should have told us about these funds and they were transferred and voted upon them maybe at a board meeting?
I do think owners should be aware when we're talking about expenses, about some things you may not care about hearing, but definitely the budget is important because that's our money. And we need to make sure that it's being spent for the best of PPCA and the owners. So yes, it should be shared.
Was there a vote to transfer those funds?
I didn't vote.
Okay, there was no vote that you know. Okay. Next question, let's keep moving here. Are you familiar with the $44,600 donated to the American Cancer Society on 6/24/25? Because the attorney, our attorney said to either give it back to Janet Jones or donate it to charity. What is your response to the use of those funds without owner's knowledge?
Okay, well, I was aware the PPCA attorney said to either give it back to Janet Jones, which I do not support, or donate. I recommended putting it toward the playground that we needed, but was told our option was were either Jones or donation. I agree the donation is better. Mike is our treasurer and decided to donate America Cancer Society, and my cancer was the reason, as well as his parents. I think his dad has the same, I have the same cancer as his dad had. I'm thankful, my understanding, it was not our funds. However, I believe it's good to let owners know what we're doing with the money.
Was there a vote to give the money to the American Cancer Society?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Next one, this is back to you, John. Are you aware that PPCA is currently under investigation by the state of Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation, DBPR, for failure to release financial information to owners? And what is your response to this?
I'm aware of it because I guess you're one of the people involved in filing that complaint. Am I correct?
Yes, I was one of the people involved. I was the one that was.
Because I saw the letter, I guess, I saw the email that was posted where it was replied back to you that it was an ongoing investigation. That's really the first I knew about it. I'm not privy to that information. I did see that. I'm not really, I know that you and I had talked and there were some problems with Sandy and y'all were trying to get the financial workshop group was trying to get financial information and she was not being forthcoming.
Well, it wasn't just Sandy.
Information.
It was Robert and it was the board and I was demoted for pushing it. But go ahead. But do you have any other thoughts?
Well, what I was going to say is that's one of the reasons, because I knew this question was coming, that I read off of our Pinnacle Port, off of our bylaws, where it said the general manager is solely responsible for the conduct and the work of the employees, which was Sandy herself. So I think we got ourselves in a little bit of a quandary there by having the accountant and the GM be one and the same through the board that Dan was the president of. I can remember the meeting when they nominated her for that position and she was voted in, which I thought was a huge mistake. So listen, I'm sure y'all have got a gripe. because y'all wanted the information. It wasn't being provided. I think that the state of the books at the current time, from what I understand, were not very good. I think we need to move forward from it. I think get the right people on the board, get people that are fiscally responsible for managing money, and get past all this crap. And let's move to a better Pinnacle Port. And I think trying to dredge up old stuff, to me, I'm just kind of getting tired of it.
All right. Well, we're still currently under investigation, though, and there may be others too. But go ahead. Next question. Thank you. Are you aware? Oh, I already got that one. Here's the next one. Have you reviewed the Sears milestone report and reserve studies, problem areas, and cost estimates? Do you think they're accurate? Do you, if not, why not?
I have no idea if they're accurate or not. I mean, I think that's going to be left up to the engineering firms that we're hiring in order to do the assessments. To comment on what the prices are, what it's going to cost to fix it. I think that the ballpark has been thrown out there. I think we're going to have to drill that down. We're going to have to get bids and estimates. I think once that's done through a transparent process, we'll have to present that to the owners. We do know that the plumbing has to be done immediately. That needs to be the first thing. The tower plumbing is completely falling apart. We got wastewater falling through roofs and into hallways. The quicker that we can get started and get the amount of bids and do our due diligence, that needs to happen. So whatever they are, they are. I mean, you get 3 bids and you take the low bid or the best bid, whatever you choose to do, and we've got to find a way to get the work done.
Great. Okay, back to you, Barb. I'm going to ask you about the PPCA. Are you aware that PPCA is under investigation by DBPR for failure to release financial information to owners, and what is your response to that investigation?
Okay, yes, I'm aware of it, and I recommend the board of director accommodates owners' request to minimize reporting. We cannot afford unnecessary fines, and we do have a good GM now. And with our previous accountant, he had to observe, and when he took care of it. So he's doing a good job.
All right. Next one. Have you reviewed the Sears milestone reports, reserve studies, problem areas, and cost estimates? Do you think they're accurate? If not, why not?
Well, it's a big document, and I have looked through it. I've reviewed it, but I'm not sure they are accurate or we have the best estimates. In my opinion, both needs to be revisited, and we need to prioritize and complete one step at a time.
Good. Yeah, I'm trying to pick up the speed a little here. John, what do you think are the primary infrastructure issues of concern at Pinnacle Port? I think you have already mentioned a few.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the most glaring one right now is the plumbing in the tower. I think, we've had some disasters, the elevators with Cavender, the chiller, things that have taken time and precious resources away that we could have used towards good contracts instead of throwing money at bad contracts. I think we've got to be better stewards of our money and have more control over the contractors that we hire to make sure the work gets done. The plumbing, the doors and windows to me are something that can wait. If we can put that off, I think that's going to be a major expenditure. I think we need to get the plumbing, the elevators done, the roofs done on the low mid-rise buildings. So there's going to be an order to the work. We're going to have to come up with a plan once we get bids from contractors and find out availability of when work can start. We're going to have to work around, hopefully we can work around seasonal stuff for people so they can continue to rent their units. We can get a lot of this work done maybe in the off season. We'll have to see, but the plumbing to me is the #1 issue right now.
Do you support addressing all infrastructure needs at once, or would you support doing so over time, several years?
Oh, you're going to have to do it over time. There's no way to do it all at once. The place will die. You can't shut the whole place down and have all the plumbing torn out and the roofs torn off and the elevators torn out. It's going to have to be done in a sequential fashion that's most beneficial to keep the owners afloat. We're going to have to strongly consider the people that live in Pinnacle Port as well as the people that rent. I'm neither. So, I mean, if you told me today we were going to close the tower for a year, it's not going to hurt John Floyd, but it's going to hurt the people that are counting on that rental income, or the people that call Pinnacle Port home that will have to be relocated. So it's going to be a mess. We got to do it the right way, the best we can. I don't think there's any, everybody's not going to be happy. There's no way for everybody to be happy, but we're going to have to make the most people happy that we can.
All right. Barb, what do you think are our biggest problems? What do you think are the primary infrastructure issues of concern at Pinnacle Port?
Well, we looked at the October 18, 2024 letter from O'Connell and Associates Consulting Engineers, and they gave the executive summary, which was good. And they also put categories of what needs done, like the roof components, which we did some of that, structure and primary structural system components. They talked about the concrete slab, the structural columns, shear walls, structural framing. They also talked about fireproofing and the fire protection components, the fire alarm system, the fire suppression system, the hoses, the standpipes, and the fire suppression protection. They talked about plumbing components, domestic water system piping. They talked about domestic water system pumps and controls, domestic water system sewer. They talked about the domestic water system plumbing. They also talked about electrical systems, electrical system components, and the meter control panel, and the windows and elevator, the windows and exterior doors and components, which we've already talked about that. They also talked about less things, less than 10,000, so not that important. And then waterproofing the exterior painting components. In my opinion, we need to take care of the sewer, the water, and the pipes. Any rusting that needs to be replaced, but those are our priorities. And we need to prioritize what we want to do it in that way. And I can tell you, John, based on my time with Pinnacle Port, which has been almost 32 years, besides when we had a hurricane, and we still weren't out that long. You know, I think we were out 3 weeks before they started opening up. When they replaced the doors and the windows, they went per wing. So you weren't closed down for a long time, and they coordinated it so you could work with your renters or whatever. So it was good. And we need to keep that same.
Yep. And do the best we can. That's all we can do, is do the best we can. Yeah.
Well, Barb, that laundry, that list there sounded like a contractor's, Christmas list. Is there a prioritization in there? I know we're asking you about something, and could that be shared with owners?
Well, if they consider the way they put it in order, prioritize, I don't know, but this is just what I was reading. It needs to be reviewed. It was done in October of 2024 and not.
Oh, 24.
Yeah, yes. So we need to look at that, and we don't need to keep that and say we're going to do everything. We need to review, determine what we need, prioritize, and then appeal the things that were brought to their attention, like replacing all the doors and windows. That doesn't need to be done now. That was done, I believe, in 2007. There are some that need replaced. We should replace those, but not all of them.
Okay, I think that answers some of this. Do you support addressing all infrastructure needs at once, or do you support doing so over time?
Over time.
Okay, thank you. John, we're going to now start talking about how to pay for it. How do you think we should pay for all these improvements, infrastructure maintenance needs identified in the reports, such as, there's some options here on the list that I gave you both: immediate increase in HOA dues for all owners, individual assessments on specific needs, community-wide loan, individual loans for those who need them. What are your thoughts? Have you gotten any ideas about this big, huge thing we have to do?
Yeah, sure. I've spoken with some bankers, people that are involved in the funding for some of these projects. I've also talked to bankers about personal loans that people will be able take out against their unit. Hopefully, a lot of people at Pinnacle Port have equity in their units where they could borrow against it to pay for the repairs. I think it's kind of going to be like a four-headed monster. You'll have an association loan that'll be available to people that maybe they can't borrow money on their own. They'll be able to borrow it from the association. People will be able to borrow the money themselves from a bank. Which a lot of the owners will do. They'll go out and borrow the money and use the property as collateral or whatever other things, assets they may have. And then you can pay cash, of course, would be an option to pay for the repairs, your percentage of the repairs. And then the other option, of course, would be you would have to sell. So, those are really, that's going to be the four options. So I think for certain owners, I would go ahead and start planning on which of those four options made the most sense for you and your family. Because I think, I'd heard several people complain that the association type loan will be at a higher interest rate, and I'm sure it'll be upwards of 7% if it was done today. Maybe interest rates will continue to come down over the next year, which many people think they will. If that's the case, something maybe in the 5.5% range would be a lot more attractive, even for the personal loans, because secondary loans on vacation properties, even with people that have good credit, the rate tends to be high. But there will be things you can talk to your accountant about. You may be able to take out a home equity loan on your home or your unit and get a tax break. So there's going to be a lot of options, hopefully, as a board. I know that there's an accountant running for the board and other people with financial experience that will be on the board that will be able to help guide owners through this process.
All right. It's a big one. That's the
yeah, it is.
Many.
Well, that's what that's what on everybody's mind, of course, because it's the financial health of the complex. We're in bad shape in a lot of ways, and it's going to take a bunch of money to fix it. So anyway.
All right. Then this leads to the next question. Then I'll go back to Barb. Given the failure, in my opinion, of the current board to significantly, they've overspent the budget quite a bit. They have not provided owners with a clear strategic plan. That's been asked for years, including priorities and cost estimates, and ongoing lack of communication on the status of our finances until recently, where we're kind of forcing the issue. Are you concerned that the proposed $40 million loan, perhaps $100,000 per unit, will be spent properly? And what can you do with your experience, which is very good? What would you do to help ensure the owner's money is managed properly going forward? Because it has not been in the past, in my opinion.
Well, I'm not privy to any of that stuff as far as the way it's managed currently. I'm not on the board, but I will say that any money that's borrowed by the association will be strictly set aside for be available to each individual unit owner to pay for their assessments. So I think the accounting will be pretty straightforward. I don't think any money that's borrowed for those assessments will strictly be earmarked for those things. I think it'll be a very stringent and a very thorough process. So, I'm not concerned about that. I think that I don't know that we're going to borrow $40 million. Like I said, there'll be a lot of owners that borrow money themselves or use cash to pay for the assessments. Hopefully, it won't be that much.
Well, I do want to say that I'm really impressed with our new accountant, and that information about money is flowing much more easily now, and I am feeling very hopeful myself. So,
a lot of times, I think one of the problems we had in the past few months in the Sandy era was that I don't know if she was capable of providing the documents that your group was, the financial the collaborative, whatever you call the group that y'all were trying to get up the financial information. Sometimes you ask for something and people are balking to give it to you. It may not be the fact that they don't want to give it to you, is they don't know what to give you. And so going forward, we've got an accountant now. I think we get a good board seated with good financial sense and doing the fiduciary responsible thing to do, and it's manage the owner's money. I think you'll see a big change.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. Definitely.
Yeah.
Barb, back to you. You've watched a lot of this for some years, but let's go back to the question. How do you think we're going to pay for all this infrastructure and maintenance needs? And I listed a number of options that I gave you. Increase in HOA fees, that almost happened in July. Individual assessments on specific needs, community-wide loan, individual loans. How do you think we're going to pay for this? And has there been any discussion of the board on this?
There hasn't been agreements, but there has been some discussion. I personally do not think we should increase our HOA fees to all owners. Individual assessments on specific needs assessment, yes. I mean, if we prioritize and say we need to do this first, we get, it's our priority, and we get good quality quotes and work. And then owners have the decision to either pay for it themselves, just for that one, not $40 million for everything, because, I don't think we should be paying that much money up front. I think we should go one step at a time. And then it's up to the owner to either, if they need to take a loan, they can take a loan, or they can pay for it out of their own ways, because we should not be having a loan at about 8% and everyone has to pay for it. I don't want to pay for that. I don't want to pay 8%. So.
Very good. This question isn't worded quite right, but given the history of the board over many years and our failure to provide, we don't really have a clear strategic plan, as far as I've seen anyway. Our priorities, our cost estimates, ongoing. I know they're working on some of those. And of course, the lack of communication on the status of our finances. Are you concerned with the proposed 40 million or perhaps 100,000 per unit that might not be spent properly? And what would you do in the next 2 years to help ensure owners' money is managed properly?
Absolutely, I'm concerned. That's what I'm saying. We should not take a loan for $40 million and have all the owners pay based on, what they have. In my opinion, we need to prioritize what needs to be done and take care of one assessment at a time. Some of them could be combined. I do not think they should take a loan for $40 million, as it may not get all the work done. And we shouldn't have to pay, everyone shouldn't have to pay the 8%. For my understanding, it was almost 8%, and that first year would be mainly paying interest fees. And then after 5 years, you have to refinance. So I don't think we should do that. One step at a time, prioritize, and let it up to the owner what they want to do. Do they need to take a loan themselves, or do they want to put the money there? That's what I think.
Okay, I think I'm back to you, John. You're on mute though, John.
I have a dog that's got a pinched nerve or something. You heard him hollering. I'm not beating my wife. Anyway, one thing I want to make a comment on what Barb just said, that people are going to have to understand, and this is going to be really tricky, because let's say that we roll this out in stages and we do the plumbing first or whatever, and everybody's got to cough up 30 grand. Okay. So if I'm a homeowner and I want to go to the bank and do a loan for the 30 grand, and I get a loan and I've used that money to pay for my assessment, then 6 months from now, we decide to do a new chiller, or we decide to put a new roof on something, or we decide to do the items on the Sears report related to the spalling or the doors and windows. We can't keep going back, so to speak, going back to the kitty and asking for more money. So like I said, I think this is going to be tricky. I think it's going to take a lot of people with hands-on experience dealing with contracts and figuring out how to make this work, because my guess is probably about half of the people are going to be interested in the association loan. The other half will either pay out of pocket or get a personal loan. So, but again, it's going to be difficult. I mean, I agree with Barb that we're going to have to do it in stages, and I think that we're going to. But I think in dealing with the money side of it, it's going to create some hardships and some issues.
But John, if you go with a loan from a bank, you can say, I need 30,000, but I need to borrow up to 100,000.
Yeah, and you can keep basically an open line of credit, but Barb, a lot of these banks they don't do that. And so they're going to want to know a specific amount, and there's fees associated with it and things that going to end up costing us more because we're not sure of the amount that we're going to need. So, and like I said, hopefully it'll work out, but I foresee there's going to be issues that we're going to have to deal with. So owners need to be ready for that.
John, lack of communication and professionalism has been a problem with the board. And not only with owners, but with also between directors and the GM. I mean, you can see all this on Facebook too, around election season. Do you have any suggestions for improving communication and collaboration among the directors and the GM? Let's talk about that first. How can they get along?
I mean, those are personal issues. I think right now we've got a split board. I don't know if everybody here that's on tonight watched the previous board meeting where tried to nominate Alexander and Chris Barnes, and both 4 would vote for one and 4 would vote for the other. We couldn't get a majority, and then we decided to maybe put them both up there, and they both got put on the board. So we've got a split board for whatever reason, whether it's different philosophies or different ways of trying to skin the cat, so to speak. But we need a board that works together. We need a board that that everybody knows their role. And we need a board of people that are actually bringing something to the table. You can't be on a board, okay, on an association board where it's required for people to have some skill set in order to bring something to the owners if you don't have anything to bring to the owners. Just because you own a condominium doesn't make you a good board member. So I think that when people vote, you need to vote on people that are bringing something that's going to help. Rather than voting for people that somebody told you to vote for or a friend or whatever. Try to understand their skill set and what they can bring to the table. And if they don't have anything, maybe you should vote for somebody else.
And then also there's leadership. Don't you believe that we need leadership on the board?
Of course we need leadership. I've seen in the last few board meetings, and this is me personally talking, I think that between Jeremy and Rob and Mike, I think that the meetings have been pretty smooth. I think Mike is a good communicator. He does well. He's been in the business of communicating his whole life. He was a lobbyist for many years in the state of Kentucky. He knows how to run a board meeting. Robert has a lot of skills in real estate. He's a CAM. He lives on property. He brings the ability for us to have eyes on things at the property. He brings a lot of that to the table. And then Jeremy has done an excellent job at facilitating the meeting. So, like I said, we've got a split board. I think there's ones that are trying, and then there are ones that are going against the grain on everything for whatever reason. I think that's what we need to look at and vote accordingly.
Well, you just sided with one side of them.
Well, I'm siding with the GM and the people that are running the meetings. That's all I can see. I don't know what the gripes are. All I know is there's dysfunction on the board.
Right. Okay. How would you improve transparency and communication of the board and the GM with owners?
Well, I think the GM is required, or he's not required, but he's currently providing a weekly report. I think that the board meetings are available for anyone that wants to attend or view. I know I've been an owner in Sandestin for 25 years, and I've never attended a board meeting. When I get the paperwork from board meetings and things to vote on, I throw it in the trash. And the reason I do is because things are going pretty well over there. And so I think a lot of people are getting involved, kind of like me, where things aren't going that good. And I think that when things aren't going very good, I think more people get involved. I think there'll be better communications. I think, again, we've got a GM now that understands the business. He's got a lot of experience. I think he's putting his best foot forward, and I see a lot of progress in the communication side.
Do you support, speaking of communication, do you support the GM participating in meetings of the Owners Collaborative? I mean, he's here tonight, which is nice, but he offered to actually do a Q&A like you were doing, but then he pulled out of it. But do you support the GM participating in meetings with, like you are, answering questions to owners as he does with the
Well,
Wednesday Coffee
yeah,
Club?
I think that's, I think that's really something the board should decide. I think Jeremy, the willingness to be on the meetings, I think it's great. I mean, I don't have anything to hide from Jeremy. I think that anything I'd say on here, I'd say to his face. So if we're going to use it to bash him, no, I don't think he should be on here. I think that would be detrimental to the health of the association as well as the morale amongst employees because stuff gets out.
John, excuse me for a
Mhm.
second, but the collaborative doesn't bash.
No. I'm just saying that if he's going to participate in things of this nature, what I'm saying is if it came to saying negative stuff, I don't think that he should be involved in that because he is the employee and basically our GM. So I think you're walking a fine line. I don't know that him being involved with owners only makes a lot of sense. But again, I really haven't given a lot of thought, Catherine.
Well, he does attend the Wednesday Coffee Club meetings. So,
Well, he's on property, and that's a good opportunity for him to talk to owners that live there. I think that's great.
um, well, I have to say that some people, including some of the members of the board currently, including the president, give the collaborative a bad name, and I don't think it's a good idea to spread those rumors that are not true. All right, back to I think I've got one more. Let's go back to Barb. But lack of communication and professionalism has been a problem on the current board, not only with owners but also between directors and the GM. Do you have any suggestions for improving communication and collaboration among the owners and the GM? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I believe the GM does a good job communicating on a weekly basis, but in my opinion, more details need to be included, as well as links to condo control, as it's not the best app to find what you're looking for.
Okay, so what about between directors? You know how they kind of haven't been very effective lately together? They have these sides that John mentioned. Do you have any suggestions on is there a way to fix it? Because you're on the city council too.
We are never going to get everyone on the same page. No one's going to agree with anybody 100%, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But when we're having a meeting and we're voting, in my opinion, we need to talk about it, our side of the story, and then if we vote against it, because I think I was the only one who voted against Sandy being the temporary GM, I gave the reason why. Whenever I don't agree with what's being recommended, I will say why I'm not agreeing with it. And I think that should be shared with the owners.
And when you dissent, Barb, you should. That should be noted.
I think
so.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. But I just think we have to have a board from the get-go, starting in October, that's willing to work together, that everybody can put their hands together in a huddle and say, let's do the best thing for Pinnacle Port and quit playing politics. I mean, we're not making money here, being on a board. This is a volunteer board. If you're not going to work, you're not going to get along, you're not going to try to do what's best for the 400 owners or whatever we have, then you should go find something else to do. It's just not that important to have someone there because you want to be on it if you're not participating in progress.
Barb, how would you improve transparency and communication of the board and the GM with the owners? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I've said this before. I think the weekly communication at minimum and perhaps monthly meetings instead of bi-monthly. Perhaps budget review should be in a separate meeting or at minimum more than just the paperwork. There needs to be a good review with owners and room for Q&As. In other words, when the budget was completed and put on condo control, that should have been included in the weekly communication so all owners know it's out there and how to get to it to review it.
Do you support the GM participating in meetings of the Owners Collaborative? Again, he's here tonight, which is wonderful. But we would like to have a Q&A with him. Do you support that he would be willing to do that as he does with the Wednesday Coffee Club?
I think it would be fine. Good.
Yeah.
Yes. I support it.
And back to you, Barb. What is the most important thing you would like to achieve during your next term if you're elected?
Okay, well, when I ran a couple years ago, I put my priorities, and if you've read my bio, it says the status of where we're at on those. Transparency is important, budget's important, but now in addition to those priorities, we've got the things we have to work on within the next couple of years. So we need to get the owners involved, communicate with them, summarize what we're doing, give them as much notice as we can so they can determine how to pay for it.
Do you since you've been in their office before, what was the most what have you achieved in your last 2 years that you're most proud of?
Can I tell you what I tried to achieve?
Yeah, tried is good.
My goals were transparency, and we are getting more transparency to the owners, but we're not where we should be. Also, the budget. We need to bring the owners in and summarize, not just give them a report, here it is, look at it. We need to have a meeting with our accountant and go over it and answer Q&A so the owners are aware of what we're doing with their money and what's going to happen in the future. So, yeah.
Well, we appreciate all of you worked hard on that, and what you've done has made some changes, which we appreciate very much. Are there any other points you'd like to make before we turn it over to questions from the audience?
I'd like to say that I'm proud of Barb. She, in the last meeting, when there was a stalemate on trying to get 2 board members, which it was ridiculous that we have waited as long to put somebody on the board. Barb was the one that originally said, well, let's put them both out there. So I think to me, what that showed is that Barbara's willing to compromise. She's willing to work with others. I know your health has been an issue, Barb, and I'm sorry for all that. And you seem to be doing great. I think that being able to compromise and to work with others, I think that's key here. And when Barb said that, then we were able to get 2 new directors voted in. And one thing that Barb said is true. We're not always going to agree on everything. It's just not the way life is. And some people are going to have projects they think are more important than others on the board. But again, I think working together, having compromise, I think that Barb has shown to be a trooper. And I'm appreciative to her 2 years. And I'll be voting for her again.
Board members who are getting PPC issues addressed by prioritizing and ensuring we have the best quality and best price and keeping owners up to date by keeping them in the loop. We've improved with our new GM and new board members, but we still have room for improvement. And John, I'm impressed with you as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
John, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to make right now?
Well, I would like to say this, and some of the people on here may know this, and others may not. But what the actual job of the board of directors is. If you read our bylaws and you see what it says, what the responsibility of the board of directors is, it's not petty arguing and talking about each other and choosing sides. It is very well spelled out in the documents that we are to take care of the grounds and the facilities and to facilitate a beautiful Pinnacle Port that's aesthetically pleasing to the eye, where things are working, where there's, when you go to the penthouse level and you go to take a shower, there's water. That we've got running air conditioning. We've got hot water in the tower when you turn the hot water on. We've got air conditioning when you turn the dial down. So a lot of things that we've had problems with over the past several years are things that most people take for granted unless you live in a third world country. That's how pathetic it's been. The board has got to focus on improving those things at Pinnacle Port. We can't continue to sit here and bicker over stuff, over spending money on this and spending money on that. We've got to focus on the things that we're charged to do in the bylaws. And that's to be good fiduciaries of the money and to maintain and the facilities. So that's what I want to focus on.
Very good. Thank you so much. I just want to tell you guys again before we go to open questions is I so appreciate you coming tonight and explaining your views so we all understand where you're coming from. And I think both of you are very honest people. And I hope, and I really think you'd both be very good on the board.
Thank you, Catherine. I appreciate that.
Would anyone like to have a question? Let's see, let me see if I can. I've got some hands. I've got Charles, his hand. If I see any more, let me know if I'm missing any. Charles, would you like to unmute and ask a question?
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. It's kind of hard to find the raise your hand icon
Your hand
on
is raised
here.
right now.
Yeah, you got to go under reactions and then it's there rather than being on the front page for some reason. I thank both of y'all for coming on. I think both of you are great candidates for the board. Exactly what John said. I just need to reiterate that you don't need to be on a board just because you own a condo. You need to have a skill set or something to bring to the table to be a board member, and we need all the help we can get. And I think both these people have got great references and background and business experience. So thank you so much for that. Secondly, everything's on condo control and it's hard to find. It needs to be customized. I don't know if we could get somebody to possibly work on customizing it per Pinnacle Port, but everything's there. The videos are there. The minutes are there.
Yeah, I thought they were.
They are.
Could you-
It's just not real user
Find 'em.
friendly, and maybe if we could get somebody that's more tech savvy than me, as I'm a 8-track guy living in an iPhone world, to customize it, that would make it more user friendly. It really needs to be. Maybe we can get Chris Barnes could volunteer for that. Anyway, thank y'all.
Or one of our kids, Charles, could probably do it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, if Charles or Chris or anybody can put it in the chat, the link to the minutes, I would appreciate it. And the link to the recordings, I would appreciate it. Jeremy, you feel free to put it in the chat if you know where they are. I bet you do. I only have one screen, so I can't see anyone that's on a different screen. Does anyone else have a question? Maybe you can put it in the chat if I don't see you raising your hand.
They could unmute as well. You know, they could unmute if they had a question because no one else is
Right.
speaking.
Some
So
people can't unmute, but I tried to make it so everybody can unmute. Well, we have 37. We had up to 41. We have 37 on right now. Give it a couple more minutes if there's any questions that we didn't cover. I think we covered so much, and they're really challenging questions too. Thank you both.
I do have a question. I mean, I think we already have Barb's contact information, but John, would you be willing to share like an email address or a phone number or
Sure.
something if anybody
Yeah,
wants to contact you?
Sure, I put it on. It's on Facebook. I think I put it on earlier, but my email is jfloyd, JFLOYD 2112 @yahoo.com.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And Barb, do you want to give your email?
At work or my personal?
Whichever
Personal.
you want to do.
Personal would
Give it
be
away.
oh wait a minute, I'm sorry. The Biggs, THEBIGGS 62298 @yahoo.com.
Very good.
What's the significance of the 62298, Barb?
That was my zip code before we relocated in Morgantown. Yeah.
Well,
And I have another email that I open, which is the Biggs 85356 @gmail.com. But that
Don't
has-
confuse us, Barb.
I have a lot of emails, okay?
Hey,
Well-
John. John, you mentioned Chipley. How far is that from Panama City Beach, and how often at the place?
Well, it's about 50 miles due north. If you come from Atlanta, which a lot of our people come down through that direction from Georgia, you'll pass through Chipley almost certainly. I live a little south of town there in Chipley. So, like I said, it's about a 50-minute drive from our home to the gate at Pinnacle Port. And I'm down there, I'll be down there for the day, we came Sunday to lay on the beach, which was a beautiful day, and enjoy the beach. And so it's nice to be able to come down for the day and go home. So we don't rent our unit. My kids use it quite a bit. So I've got 3 adult children, 2 married and 1 about to be married. So the kids are using it more than us, I think.
And didn't I, maybe a few months ago or last year, didn't I see you around like doing something with the dunes or?
Oh, Lord. You're talking about taking up the old irrigation.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're not even on the board and you're out there.
Well, that doesn't matter.
Helping out.
I was helping. I was helping owners that were ready for that to get done. It wasn't a big deal. I brought my son down and we removed all the old irrigation. It was unsightly in the front of all the low-rise units. And actually, some was behind the pool there at the tower. But anyway, I was glad to be able to do it and made a lot of people happy. And it took a half a day, so not a big deal. Listen, if I get on the board, then I'll help oversee the playground installation. I know Ben and his son are good people. Hopefully, if that comes to fruition, we'll have somebody on the board if I'm elected to oversee that project, which is what we do. So, again, having people that can help manage projects will avoid some of the disasters we've had over the last 5 years. I think will be a great compliment to the board.
Well, you also have your landscaping experience.
Yeah, and like I said, of course, we work and do a lot of work for the state of Florida. It keeps us pretty busy. We do some commercial work as well, so it'll allow us to have an opinion on landscaping, which ours up until recently has been horrible. So, but it's starting to look a little bit better. Not up to my standards yet, but I'll have to donate some time and some material maybe.
Well, and Barb, I have to say how hard Barb has worked on the financial work group. She was a leader. She helped find Adam Kapuska, who built a model on how we could use our money based on cost estimates. And then she found Tim Jenkins, who is who's gone so far to be a candidate as well, who's highly talented in financial areas, CPA. He's a CPA of CPAs. So, and she's worked hard tirelessly, and she's like a saint. She doesn't even get mad. I don't know how she does it, but she really sees through all of it and puts up with a lot. So, and I think she'd be great. Anything else? Any other questions, audience? Nope. Well, I think what we'll do is 2 points I wanted to make. We're at the end. One is remember to vote. I think the deadline is maybe the day before. I don't know what it is before the owners meeting, but make sure you vote. It's easiest to vote electronically. There's the directions have already been mailed to everyone, and I think there's been emails on how to vote electronically. Please vote. You don't have to vote for 4 votes. You can do 3, 2, 1, whatever you want to do. Also, I want to say the collaborative potluck is going to be Thursday, October 23rd, the day before the owners' fancy wear blue and white dinner, which will be fantastic as well. Heather is involved in that. So we're just having a simple potluck and fun and beer, and you're supposed to wear a shirt of your favorite team, something like that, but all friendly, easy. And we'll have a party on Friday, and then we'll have our big meeting and see who wins or who, because it's a hard job. I really commend you guys for wanting to do it. Thank you all, and I'm going to close the meeting if no one has any other questions. Thank you again.
Thank you, Catherine.
I'm going to stop recording now too, if I know how to do it.